welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. This is a celebratory episode as I finally made it to the end, or in this case, the beginning of the National Road, also known as the National Pike, Cumberland Road. I've been traveling this road for many years in bits and pieces like I did with Route 66, and now I'm at mile marker 0. There's a few historical markers here, plus some trivia related to George Washington and how he used the National Road before it became such a thing. So I'll go ahead and start the tour in this park. All right, so this is Riverside Park in Cumberland, Maryland. And then that is mile marker 0. I'm just gonna go ahead and start over here real quick. This park dates back to 1893, by the way. This is also known as the Fort Cumberland Trail. And then it says here, I'm not going to go through this whole marker, but it was put up by the Maryland National Historic Road Association. You are standing at the starting point of this country's first federal road building project, the Cumberland or National Road, a vision of George Washington as a means to develop the continent and to unite the country. His idea was championed by Thomas Jefferson, authorized by Congress in 1806. 5 years later, in 1811, actual construction work began in the summer of that year. The adjacent monument was erected to commemorate the 2011 bicentennial of the start of the construction on the road at the 0-mile marker that you will find in the traffic island in the intersection before you. So in other words, it's right over there. I'll have to go find it. All right, so at the triangular part of the intersection is this marker. Got a lot of historical text on it. So if you guys need a little refresh of what the National Road is or National Pike is, here we go. The National Pike was also called the National Road. It used national funds, or the Cumberland Road, because it began right here in Cumberland, Maryland. Behind you and to the right along the base of the hill were the storehouses of the Ohio Company. The earliest trails were made by Indians. So Christopher Gist followed these Indian trails while exploring for the Ohio Company. In 1751, Gist and the Indian man Nemacolin laid the course of a road from Wills Creek to the south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was known as the Nemacolin Trail and followed the general direction of Green Street from Fort Cumberland over Braddock Road to LaVale and then westward. Washington's small party followed it when going to warn the French to leave the Ohio Valley. The next year, in 1754, George's military command cleared a road and built bridges along this trail before the military action at Fort Necessity. This was the first road across the mountains, and it was used for many years till the National Pike was built. General Braddock's men followed this route to the disastrous Battle of the Monongahela. His baggage trains and heavy artillery had considerable trouble crossing the mountains. He died of a battle wound and was buried in the road with the army marching over his grave to prevent discovery by the Indians. Braddock's men had enlarged the road, and a party under Lieutenant Spenlow found an easier route through the Narrows and westward through LaVale until joining Braddock Road. Early roads were paved and usually very poor, so when available, water transportation was preferred. As more people moved westward, better transportation was needed. In 1811, the national government began building the National Pike or Cumberland Road. It became the main overland route to the west. The road was made of crushed rock and cost up to $13,000 per mile. Wow. Even that was a lot of money back then. Toll houses were built nearly every 15 miles. The toll house west of here in LaVale is the last remaining in Maryland, and I did an episode on that previously. This road followed the Nemacolin Trail for a way and was finished to Wheeling, Virginia by 1818. 34 years before the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. In time, it extended to Vandalia, Illinois, near the Mississippi River. In 1833, the road was relocated through the Narrows after the marshy areas were drained. Over it streamed a continuous procession of people, vehicles, and livestock. The local merchants did well by selling food and other necessities to those using the National Pike, or Cumberland Road. And our city grew because of it. The road is better known today as US 40. And here's a marker right here. Beginning of National Pike is located in 1805. Relocated in 1903. So it says on the marker around this monument are 6 flags that represent the 6 states that it passes through. That is Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and then Maryland. And then that is the United States flag, of course. And as I've said in many episodes related to the National Road, yeah, it was America's technical first interstate highway. It was not paved during its heyday during the first half of the 19th century, but that didn't stop many people from traveling. I mean, families moved westward. They settled in different places along the west. And again, it stopped in Vandalia, Illinois because, you know, Congress, the United States government ran out of money. But they did eventually expand it somewhat to St. Louis, Missouri. Well, East St. Louis, technically, as I've already chronicled in my first National Road episode. But I have traveled most of the National Road as much as I can. And every state that has a National Road Association, they've done quite a good job. I mean, some better than others, and I'm not going to say which ones, but I will say that some states do need a little work in preserving more of its history, but I know it's going to be very tough because some of the stuff that was here like 200 years ago during the historic National Road, it's all gone, but you know, what can you do? So I'm going to go ahead and get up close to this monument and touch that baby. 0 mile marker. So it says down here, this monument is dedicated to the eternal spirits of our forebears, their inspiration and determination to begin building our nation's public infrastructure in Cumberland, Maryland in 1811 helped secure our country's growth and prosperity. It is further dedicated to future generations who will inherit their legacy. May all who gaze upon this monument be so inspired for the betterment of our nation. And I'm going to go ahead and look around here just for a little bit. And of course, somebody had to graffiti this thing. So now I can say that I've done the whole Route 66 and the National Road. I remember when I was standing on top of the Pacific Ocean at the edge of Santa Monica Pier, I said that maybe one day I'll finish this road, and indeed I did. So I'm going to celebrate, but of course I'll do it responsibly. No alcohol involved. But which historic road should I do next? I mean, there's plenty to explore, and I may take a little break from doing that. But otherwise, I mean, it's been a fun journey. And I mean, I would love to do the Lincoln Highway. I'd love to do the Pacific Coast Highway or the PCH. Heck, I'd even love to do US Highway 1, where it starts right at the Maine Canada border and ends in Key West, but that'll be like time consumption. I mean, most of these roads I would definitely have to do, you know, portion by portion, like arrange separate trips like I did with this and Route 66. And as a bonus, because it shares the land with George Washington's headquarters, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about why this is here. Now, this was removed from City Hall. City Hall is just up that way. It's about a mile from here, and this was originally over there on top of the hill, but it was intentionally moved here in later years. But yes, this was the headquarters of General George Washington, and he was under Colonel General Braddock, at Fort Cumberland during the French and Indian War, 1755 to 1758, and as Commander-in-Chief of the American Army in 1794. Now, one of these days I would definitely love to come back to this town because there's lots of other history too. I mean, there's a historic canal. I mean, it advertises itself, it's historic downtown, and it is kind of a, you know, cool place to, you know, end a journey. But for some people who are traveling the National Road, again, begin their journey. All right, so my closing statement is this. I had a lot of fun. I mean, yes, Route 66 was admittingly more interesting, but I got to see the other side of history that I don't really get to see back home. and I'm glad this one involved me traveling east as opposed to west. But either way, I hope this brings a lot of National Road enthusiasts together. I hope more enthusiasm grows for the historic National Road in the coming years. Not many people even know about it. People see signs and just, you know, don't even pay much attention to them. And some live in these towns in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and they don't really know what the whole historic National Road holds significance in their town, unfortunately. That's just how I, you know, that's just my opinion. But anywho, I'll see you guys pretty soon. Stay tuned for some episodes of Historically March. Like and subscribe. I am Jason in Cumberland, Maryland, signing off.